I went there last April for the White House egg roll.
Nice.
That's a good story.
My kids got to go roll the egg down the hill in front of Joe
Shout
Biden.
out to all them DC people. Taxation without representation.
Yeah. Woo.
Boo.
And boo.
Oh, the bag of antlers reference. Well done, Zool. Because
yeah, and Zool also asked, will Terry be a guest sometime on the next book? I said, hopefully. Hopefully we get Terry on here next time. Next book.
She'll probably jump in and comment on that shortly.
Yeah, shortly.
Deal.
Yeah.
All that in a bag of antlers would be really good on a t-shirt.
That's got to happen. It has to happen.
That's like really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because the bag of antlers comes up again in this episode, so I'm like, yes, bag of antlers.
And you do know we do have other worlds to discover eventually too, so we can't just make all. I mean, I guess we can have as many t-shirt designs as we want. So who cares?
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a wealth of nonsense. So as we read books, I'm gonna be throwing out phrases. It's gonna happen. So
yeah. So that's true. This is what I want. All that a bag of antlers. And Tara says that would be fun. Elbakov. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Very good, Tara.
Get through because we have a lot of chapters to cover. And our wonderful mod and graphic designer and all the things above and amazing person Tree just said
Tree.
Thank you, Tree.
Thank you, Tree.
No problem. Just keep throwing out ideas. I got it.
Yeah.
No problem.
We're actually a merch company that does a podcast. That's what we are.
Right. Exclusively.
We just come up with Cosmere t-shirts. That's all we're doing. So you guys ready to jump into part 5, Believers in a Forgotten World?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a tree. I'll start remembering, writing them down. I'll remember them. I'll send it to you in a DM later. All right, chapter 35. Jumping right in. So, Vince in the Mist, super Debbie Downer, just really, really upset about all the events of what unfolded, and especially taking out on Kel. She's thinking in her head, he said to trust him. He left me just like the rest of them. How stupid was he to die this way? And just when Vin's just in a, what are the 5 stages of grief or whatever?
She's a grief, exactly.
She's in the depression. She's in the depression stage right now.
Depression and
little anger mixed in there. That's where she is.
And then not believing this is actually real. Trying to come to grips with the reality of the situation.
The denying.
Yeah.
The bargaining. What is it? The denying.
I don't remember
anger.
the steps exactly, but
I don't know the order. I don't know what order they're in, but it's bargaining,
I don't either.
denying, denial, anger, depression, and acceptance. Those are the 5
acceptance.
steps.
There you go. The first or the 5th one's acceptance. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So yeah, she's textbook. She's right in there.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
She is. Mm-hmm.
All of them are though. I mean.
Yeah. They're all pretty depressed. I mean, hundreds of Ska were executed right after Kel's death.
Yes.
They went through and just started a full cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Sazed shows up during all this, and Vin's just kind of emo Vin mode, just which she's allowed to mourn, she's allowed to have grief. That's an appropriate response to losing someone. Maybe not so much the anger, but you got to remember, this is how people cope with things. You do start blaming people, especially if someone dies and you feel like it was unneeded. There is some of that blame and some of that.
And she's also reliving a pattern of being abandoned. So she's also dealing with the PTSD of that fallout.
Yeah.
And again, all of that's understandable.
Yeah.
Considering what she's been through. And she's also only like 17 years old.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
So
sure. And Sazed starts trying to talk to her, and says, why are you so upset? Vin is like, why aren't you, Sazed? And he goes, I still believe in Kel. He goes, how can you? Like, he just threw away everything.
Yeah.
And I love this quote. He's like, belief is not a thing for fair times and bright days.
Right.
And there's a lot of religious undertones, but Sazed, and that's appropriate for Sazed. But a true belief in something It's not just for when things are good.
Right. I heard years ago. I heard like a definition of faith, and it was something like that. Faith is believing in something even when the times are at their hardest.
Yeah.
That's true faith in
Right.
whatever it is, and it was very synonymous with that saying.
Yeah.
So,
It's almost like it's hardest to like have faith when things are really tough, but that's almost when it's most important too, right?
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You nailed it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and Vin's still bitter and actually says Kel doesn't deserve, our belief in him or our faith in him. He doesn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And as all this is happening, they could hear, people starting to gather outside. I guess she's on the rooftop or whatever, and she can hear people down below gathering, saying basically starting to worship Kel. And they're like, what are they doing? And they're like, well, I think they're worshiping him. And Vin's so taken back by this, and others are joining in and Satan kind of, takes his level head saying, well, this is kind of how religions are made. We get more into that later, but it's definitely one of these things where Vince is taken back by it. Just like, why would anyone even want to do this at this point? It's over. It's done.
Right.
And the others are kind of the same way too. They go down and meet with the others in the crew, and they're all trying to decide, what's next. Sazed says, hey, I'm going to return to my homeland and do my own thing. And Vince's like, are you gonna leave me too? And Saze's like, I'll return. He's like, sure you will. Vince just being super.
Yeah. Well, she's being angsty.
Teenage angst. Yeah.
Yeah. She's just being angsty,
Yeah.
All I kept thinking of, by the way, I kept picturing the Who and Whoville after, the Grinch steals Christmas. And it's like there's this murmuring, and you just hear like the people coming together, they singing the song.
Yeah.
The whole deal. And I was like, that's all I could think of the whole time when they talk about these people coming together, and they're like, talking about, Kelsier, and it's like torches and groups of people with torches coming together.
And they're not scared of them. The survivor wasn't scared of the mission, neither should we. And they're all kind of gathering where normally they're terrified to come out at night.
And they were like, we didn't even do anything. We just sat there and watched,
And what do you think about this little speech that I guess one of the Scott guys starts to give a speech, and they overhear it? He's talking about Kel and how great a person he was, how he killed an Inquisitor, and and then we let him die. We let him down. We did nothing, as he died. And here he is killing an Inquisitor, and
then afterwards, they killed like hundreds of us, left the bodies in the streets. And by the way, who's going to have to clean up the bodies because they just like turned around, walked out, and left? We have to dig the graves. We have to do all the work.
Right.
And it puts everything in perspective to all of them. It's like, this is what our life is. I mean, this is not a life. This is a terrible life to live,
Yeah. And then, in the speech, the guy also says, the Lord Ruler can never really kill Kelsier. He's the Lord of the Mists. And they all said, what do you mean? He's dead. And it's like, no, he came back. I saw him tonight. And they're like, okay. And then, the crew's just thinking like, okay, they're crazy now.
Right. Which, of course, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it was like the Elvis sightings back in like the 80s and 90s. Yeah. And people were like, I saw Elvis. And I'm like,
yeah.
No, you just saw a white dude in a suit. Come on.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. And Breeze even makes some points. It's too bad it's not enough people to mean anything. But then they realize it's not just in the street in front of their little shop. It's the whole city's coming out for Kel. Like,
because then they start seeing like small pockets of
everywhere,
kind of converging, right?
Right.
That's powerful. If I'm sitting on top of a building and I see like groups of people from around the city coming together, I would either be like really joyous or super crazy scared.
Yeah. Well, Doxson's I think a little excited. I mean, he turns and goes, what he says, you insane genius. Like,
yeah.
Because they realize it. It clicks to them. It was like, this was Kelsier's plan. Like, he's created an entire religion, and we all thought he was just being egotistical. No, like, and even Caesar points out, he had asked me a lot of questions about religion. What do people follow and those kind of things, and pretty much formed his own religion based around him. But that's what Kelsier realized, that there's no way to get the Ska to to disown their god without replacing with another god.
Right.
He needed to create a whole nother religion for them. Otherwise, it would never work. So all along was him.
Yeah.
So
I love the callback to those conversations they were having about religion too, because you thought they were throwaway conversations this whole time, and then come to realize all he was doing was basically doing the research to figure out why was a religion successful and stuck around as long as it did. And he's like, oh, okay. And so he's like just picking, like pieces out of different religions and like, okay, I need a martyr. I need someone that's altruistic. I need someone that's a beacon to the people. He's just like cherry picking all the things. And he's like, okay, so I need to do this. I need to do this. I've got to do this thing, and I've got to be ready to go. And after I die, I need to make sure I have things set up for this. And he was on top of it. And again, he saw the big picture, and I wasn't there. I didn't have it all together. But then it's like it all comes together, and you're like, he was really planning something.
Yeah,
we just weren't in on it. So
yeah,
good move by Kel. Great move by Kel. Brilliant move by Kel, actually.
Yeah. Will, your thoughts are? You sound like you're about to say something, but
that was a really good point by Alondo. I hadn't even thought about that, but it got me thinking back to when Kel had like an inner monologue about Sazed, and said, "Sazed, the time will come when you'll no longer need to like retain knowledge, but teach knowledge." And now I'm fast forwarding to where we are now. And he, said he's going to go north and go tell the, Terracemen everything. And I think, we're at that time now where Sazed's going to go teach everything he's learned. So it's just, So,
yeah. At this point, Vin asked to be taken to the warehouse. He's like, wasn't there a warehouse that Kel kept or whatever, where our meeting spot was? Let's go there. Like, she had this hunch, and they go down there, open it up, and it's full of weapons. So he goes, that's where all the weapons were. Like, it wasn't even for our army. There's an entire warehouse. It's to arm the whole city. Like, there's enough weapons to arm the entire city. Like, that's where they were all going.
And again, this was foreshadowed a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
We forgot because they were building an army, but so there were some mentions before, even between the noblery, about how many weapons Renew was actually buying, and there was like crazy amounts of weapons, and I was like, this guy is like an arms dealer, and I'm thinking, he's like selling weapons to other people to make money or something. Didn't even think. It's like, where's all those extra weapons going? And now it finally comes to fruition here in this warehouse scene. I was like, yep.
Yeah. And I think one of them points, I guess the army was just a front. The real thing was the people. And right as they say that out loud, a figure in the back goes, "No, the army wasn't a front. It was part of the plan. We needed people trained to lead these people." So that was, and they're like, "Renaud, is that you?" Like, because it's his voice. Like they startle at first, but they're like, "It's Renaud's voice." But the person who steps out, it's Kelsier.
It's like, what?
But it's Renaud's voice still. And Vin is so confused here. Like, like what is going on? They would, and Renaud says, they would never rebel unless they gave him a new god. Kelsier steps forward. It's Kel's body. It's a Khandra. And then we learn a little bit more about the Khandra here, a little bit. Just little snippets.
Yep.
But Vin is kind of confused, and he makes his face transparent where you can see the bones underneath. He says, "No, I'm a Khandra. I can take the form, of pretty much anyone." And he says that he's been meeting with different people as well as Kelsier to keep that, and that's how they've seen Kelsier still alive, because he's been going out because he's carrying out Kel's orders. If any even asks, he says, "Are you like a Mistwraith?" And he's like corrected him and says, "No, I'm a Khandra, not a Mistwraith." And it's Mistwraith that hasn't grown up. Mistwraith hasn't grown up yet. Like,
right. So it's like Mistwraith 2.0.
Yeah,
something.
An advanced bag of antlers.
Advanced
bag of antlers. Yeah,
it's Senor bag of antlers.
Sir, bag of antlers.
Sir, bag of antlers.
That's Mr. Bag of Antlers to you.
Good times.
Yeah,
and they also says that Kel had been training. What's the point of us? Is kind of one of the questions they asked too. So, well, the religion needed leaders, and you guys knew Kel, so he couldn't let you in on this aspect of it because he knew you'd never fall in religious fervor. But this whole rebellion needs leaders, so you all were handpicked because you guys would be all, administrators and have your own little, soldiers and different aspects that you can make this work. Kel's plan was never for him. His plan was to die. His plan was the martyr.
Right.
He, as he told Kel, I think Vin in the note that we just found, he'd already, I died when Mare died. Like,
I wasn't supposed to live this long.
I was supposed to go
anyway.
Yeah.
So he's like, so basically, that's his way of saying I was always on borrowed time.
Yeah.
Exactly. I liked when I believe it was Breeze that said the thing about a religious nut, and because he's talking about, I think he's talking about the ska guy, and calls him a religious nut. I think it's what he, and I remembered that something I read a long time ago said that every religion that is started by a religious nut. Everyone thinks they're a nut, but then you slowly have other people come along, and once that mantra, that dogma becomes well established, then the nut becomes the prophet, and then you become just mainstream, and that's exactly what's happening here. You have like one guy who's like on the soapbox, and he's like, "Hey, we need to get behind this, the religion of Kelsier." I'm just calling it for right now. And then it's like you slowly get people behind you, and then you stop being a nut, and then you start being mainstream, and then it becomes a religion.
Yeah,
that's how all religions start.
And Vin even points that out to Sazed. He's like, but we know he's just a man. Like he's not a god. And Sazed says, I think most of them are just men.
That's
like,
there. Look
at all these religions. And all these religions, most of them are.
Most of them are. That's right. That's right.
But it gives a piece of paper. It kind of lays out everyone's roles, and then he's like, I gotta bounce, deuces. And then turns to Vin and gives Vin that pouch. And inside the pouch is we get to that in a little bit. First we get to the paper, and the paper is a map and instructions on how to distribute the weapons. And there's multiple warehouses that have multiple weapon stations.
Right.
And basically here we got to get people to all these different warehouses. You got to start distributing it, keep the order going, keep the rebellion alive. The time's now, strike now. And I love how Kel ends the letter with, just remember just the smile every now and then. Now move quickly.
Right.
And Vin gets a private note from Kel, all about the 11th metal, saying, hey, I tried it. I don't know how it works. Maybe you can figure it out, but it has to be important. And she gets a piece of that, of the 11th, he leaves it to her. And everybody starts to scramble for stuff. She goes and grabs stone arrowheads. It's important. Yeah. Stone arrowheads, a bunch of pewter dust, and a bunch of vials of metal, like a ton of metal.
And she was like, I don't. She's like, Kel did not say what my role was going to be in this new organization government they're going to try and set up. And she's like, well, they are missing on something. They are missing something. An assassin. And then I was like, good on you, Arya Stark. Go ahead, go do your thing.
So everyone scattered, starts gearing up, and to get another quote here, I like, sometimes we have to wait long enough to figure out why we believe. That was another Sazed quote. Sometimes you just have to wait long enough to figure out why you believe. And then Vin turns back and says, there's something else he used to always say. There's always another secret.
Yeah. And by the way, Zool, thank you for bringing up. There is an 11th metal. I thought it was
Yes.
gonna be like some hokey thing. It was gonna be like, oh, hope is the. I was like, I'm so glad there's actually an 11th medal, because I was like, don't do that,
Yeah.
please don't.
Do you think that's it though? Do you think that's there's just 11?
Well, based on we get to that next chapter.
Yeah.
But no,
No.
obviously, I think
No, there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wait,
there's more.
Yeah. But I'm just glad the 11th medal wasn't just like hope.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, oh no.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, Vin grabs all the extra weapons down some ATM, and Seiza gets a little worried, like, "What are you doing, Vin?" And he's like, "I'm going after the Lord Ruler," and he doesn't really try to stop her. He's just like, "Okay." like,
This guy's dealt with Kelsier so long. He's like he sees a cavalier person when he's like, oh, I'm not gonna say anything to stop him. Just good luck. I will follow you. Make sure you don't get into too much ish, but you're gonna go out here and do some stupid stuff, right? So good luck with that.
Oh yeah. And that's how we end this chapter with her walking off to go deal with the Lord Ruler.
Mm-hmm.
So the rebellion's on.
Hooray!
At this point in your reading, what do you guys think? Like, I mean, their logic is like, well, he can't stop an entire city. Like, it's an entire city. Like,
right. I mean, although, like I mentioned last episode, you gotta imagine Lord Rule's been through this before. Like a whole city coming at him. And I'm like, if there's any way it's prepared, he's prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like,
oh, and we learn later. We'll get to that. We learn later. He's been through this. And
right.
Yeah. And he admits to it. He's like,
yeah. But I was thinking that the whole time I'm listening to this, I'm like, my hopes are up.
Yeah.
But at the time I'm reading this, I'm like, this guy had 1,000 years. You're gonna tell me no city has risen up. I mean, I'm talking about even a region, multiple cities have probably like, tried to rise up against him before. Yeah. So
yeah.
I felt the exact same way. When I was like, oh, all the lanterns are lighting up and everyone's coming out. It was like, great, but where's the Lord Ruler?
Yeah.
Like he's just chilling. He's chilling.
Mm-hmm.
Not even concerned. I'm like, he's just gonna wash everybody out. But
yep.
I also was when Vin got the pouch and had the 11th medal, I also went back and was like, wow. So when because I was really disappointed with how Kel died.
Yeah.
So I went back and was like, so he literally had the 11th medal or whatever it is, tried to burn it, and then was just like, I'm picturing him in his head. He's like, oh fuck, didn't work, and he's dead.
Yeah.
But that's like he didn't tell Vin about it because he didn't want to make Vin curious and keep asking and asking and asking because he'd give it to her. So he sacrificed himself. You know. So I got a little closure there, which was good.
Yeah. So, guys, ready for chapter 36?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's go. So Vin walks to Critic Shaw. She just, strolls on up. 4 guards just sitting outside, watching her approach. She's casually just strolling up. She's not even trying to charge them. Not even showing any kind of Miss Cloak probably dangling in the wind, just walking up casually. One of the guards
a lot from like Monty Python and the Holy Grail running forever.
Yeah, no running. She's cool as a cat walking up to these guards.
That's right. That's right.
And one of them lowers her spear down, and Vin says, "I know you, like I know who you are, like inside, not like as a person, but like you took this job to make extra money. It's not who you are. It's not who you really are. Right. You're a ska just like everyone else. Look around." All the ska rebelting. You're out there. You need to be with your people. You're on the wrong side of this. And
she presses him down. Holy cow!
And just like, casually tells him, and like,
okay.
And the one guard just sits there and rips this thing off and walks off, and the other 4 follow. The 3 follow.
Yep. He's just like, well, sorry, my bad. I'll see you at the rebellion. It just takes off, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
It was a new sense of confidence right there.
Oh, whole new sense of confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then Vin just strolls up, goes to where the room was, and there are 2 Inquisitors just standing there waiting. And I think one of them is just like, all this time we've been searching for you, just come to us.
You just come
You
to
know,
us. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
We were here playing rock, paper, scissors to see who gets to come get you.
Yeah, exactly.
You just stroll up.
You strolled right in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but Vin got tricks. She got tricks.
It was a nice trick.
Yeah.
What a trick.
I mean, it didn't work on the end, but it was a nice trick. You know, she throws all the arrows, and the Inquisitor's
The strategy was
casually
nice.
just pushes away. Doesn't realize that it just pushes the rings off the back of the arrows and the stone and the wood. It doesn't just come straight.
Boom. Yep. They keep coming.
Which is brilliant use of allomancy. Just like
right. And then the cloud. I mean,
yeah, and then the pewter dust because there's metal everywhere.
They're like,
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on her.
Yeah. And she leaves the one, you know, the injured and blinded Inquisitors behind, and just runs for the room because she figures if she can just get there before the Inquisitors, it doesn't matter about them anymore. She doesn't have to kill them. She just get to the room beforehand because whatever's in the room is going to be so important and so profound, and she's going to figure everything out. And she opens the room, and it's just like this normal study. A little weird, but it's just like a room. There's a big fire hearth, and you know, nothing really crazy about it. Just she's like, "This is it." Like,
yeah.
And then there's a chair in the middle, a swivel chair, like Dr. Evil. Swiveling around his chair.
I still come back to the architect from the Matrix.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's this super old man just sitting in the chair, like, and she's like, "Who the hell are you?" Like what is this? And she's so confused. And then the Inquisitor grabs her from behind, you know, and at that point, you know, the old man stands up and she realizes because he said, you know, the Inquisitor says, you know, "Lord Ruler, what should we do with it?" It's like, he's the old man's the Lord Ruler.
And that was the moment I was like, he's a terroristman. There it is. There it is. Because that's the only reason why someone would be different ages. And it confirmed my theory that I had predicted a while ago. I was like, yes, I was right.
It's terroristman, yeah. Doesn't click for Vin right away. She's still trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Thinks maybe it's like a double.
Me neither.
Yeah, that maybe it's a double is what Vin was thinking. That, you know, might be two of them, something like that. You know, but the Inquisitor, you know, pleads with him not to kill her right away. He wants to keep her because he wants to, you know,
he's got machinations.
He has motives. Oh yeah. And they argue a little bit about that, but the Lord Ruler's like, "Fine, keep the girl. You know, whatever. I don't care. She's beneath me anyway. Who cares?" But during all that, you know, Vin reaches down and burns his 11th metal. You're thinking like, "Oh, this is it. Let's burn the 11th metal," and nothing really happens. And then all of a sudden, and then she sees another man beside the Lord Ruler, you know, that's different, you know, and she's just like, "What?" And then she gets hit by the head. Everything goes to black.
Right.
Like, and she's just super confused.
Oh, but I did have one question immediately after this. I mean, I felt vindicated in the fact that I was like, "Oh yeah, he's a terroristman." Okay, that was my theory. But then the immediate question that came to my head is, wait a minute, how is he holding up? Because in order to use that much youth, you have to get that old. And I was like, no, that's not how that works. I was like, he would have to basically be in like hiding for like decades to be able to do that. But that's not what's happening, obviously, because if people would say that, they would be like, "Oh, well, you know, the Lord Ruler's around, but, you know, from the 70s to the 80s, he just pops off and you just never see him again." And I was like, okay, something's not quite adding up. Obviously, we find out later on how that works. But I was like, that's the piece that was missing. I was like, nope. Didn't quite explain everything.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah. Now we do figure that out by the end of the book.
Right.
Yeah. So anything from all this before we switch to our dear friend Elend?
Let's see. I'm just trying to make sure. Okay, did that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm good. Yep. We're good.
All right. Anything from you, Will? Good. All right. Cool. So we switch to Elend. Elend's out there trying to demand, you know, what's going on? Why is everybody panicking and keep Fincher? And, you know, Straff, his father, just snaps. Like, it's a Scott rebellion out there. We're evacuating. Like, we're getting the hell out of here. Like, we're done. And Elend's just thinking, like, that's impossible for the Scott to rise up. They're not smart enough to do that. He goes, "Well, Valette was a Scott. Yeah, maybe okay."
Then he corrects himself quickly.
Yeah, he corrects himself quickly. It's like, okay, the people are rising up. And then it hits Elend. He's like, "We're on the wrong side."
Boom.
Like, he's like, And he turns to his father and goes, "I'm not leaving the city." And Lord Venture's like, "No, we are evacuating the city." Like, that's and he mentions actually, something's happened that's going to get the Lord really pissed off. Anyways, I need to get out of here. We got to,
oh man, but the heel turn, here, Papa is like, "Wait a minute, son, maybe you should stay around." And I'm like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
No.
And in one of Elend's readings, a philosopher had predicted all this, that the noblemen would be all slaughtered by Ska eventually, when they did rebel.
Yeah.
And this goes back in history too. I mean, you go back to Greek and Roman times and slave rebellions and things, Spartacus and things like that. I mean, it's happened time and time again, even in American history, which is dark. But whenever you have a large oppressed population, almost always eventually, it might take 100 years until you get the spark and the right mixture of charismatic individuals. But eventually there's rebellion. It's just it
because the numbers always work out.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time,
it doesn't,
because in order for it to be effective, there has to be a fraction of the people leading,
right,
and a multitude of people being oppressed.
Yeah, I mean that's why, you look at the movies like 300, which it's not a historically accurate movie, but the reason why Sparta sent such a small force to the Battle of Thermopylae was because the city-state of Sparta was ran almost exclusively on a slave population. And the majority of their trained soldiers were meant as slave guards and to keep the slaves from rebelling. So when Athens or Thebes or anybody would ask them to send troops, they could only send small forces because they still had to keep their garrisons back, because if they left their armies, the slaves would rebel. And and their wives and children would be all slaughtered by slaves. So they can only afford 300. I mean, it was probably historically a little more than 300, but a very small pocket of their entire might. Now, to attack Sparta, their military is very, very well trained, and they're pretty much undefeatable trying to attack them. But they couldn't go out and wage war outside of their town because of how their city state, because of their slave population.
Exactly,
it's so large.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's been proven in history time and time again.
Yeah.
It comes up all the time. So
Bolshevik Revolution. I mean, with the Russians, it just, there's, you can just throw a dart and hit a million of these. It doesn't necessarily slave populations, but just oppressed peoples.
Oh yeah.
Well, revolt. What happened? It's and a lot of people are, I mean, not to parallel to today's times, but a lot of people are also talking about the wage gap between the top 1%ers and the vast majority of the people here in America and the westernized society. It's become such a wide gap. And you look at that and it's almost parallels with like the French Revolution when the French finally rebelled, and that you can put graphs against each other. Doesn't mean it's actually going to happen, but that's it's a very, very interesting study if you actually want to go down rabbit holes. Yeah. So anyways,
Alan, you're preaching to the choir, Alan. You're preaching to the choir, baby.
Yeah. Anyways. So Elend says he's not going. And they argue for a little bit, but Elend doubles down, and Venture realizes, if he stays, he's gonna die. This actually might be a good idea. He's like, fine, stay. I don't care. That's fine. You're in charge. I'm putting you in charge. And he's like, well, I want some of the army. He's like, I'm not taking them with me. I don't have room for them. No, you're yours. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's dirty. He's dirty beyond dirty. Of course, he did already try to have his son assassinated.
Right.
Once.
Yeah. And good on Elend for snapping right into the leadership role, immediately. Where I didn't know if Elend had it in him. He's a philosopher, a young man, kind of aloof, but he snaps right into it and turns to his new captain. And he's like, take all the forces, go to Lacal. It's a lot easier to defend the House Lacal's setup. It's a lot easier to defend than our setup, and plus you'll have, but there are enemies. Right now there are no enemies, and there's a rebellion if you didn't look outside, and they'll take you. Go there, but I need 5 of your best men to come with me. And there's what are you gonna do? It's I'm gonna go turn myself in.
I mean, and the thing is, though, I think that a lot of it is because he is extremely well read. This guy knows histories on history.
Oh, sure.
Philosophy, theory, all those things, and he is leveraging all of it right now and saying, okay, I know the thinkings of the best minds in history and literature. let me aggregate all that to come up with a strategy that's going to work for us in this particular situation.
Yeah.
And I think he executes it perfectly. And we see it works out. So good for him.
Yeah. Cool. Any thoughts from this perspective? Then, any thoughts about Elend and his decisions? Did you have any notes, Will, or anything?
No, but it's almost like he has been like reading everything.
Sure.
In preparation for when he comes to power, right? So,
yeah, 100%.
Now he's putting it to use.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So he switched back to Vin. She's in her cell. She wakes to wetness because I guess there's a little bit of blood around her from when she got hit in the back of the head, or it's damp. More of a cage than a cell, but yeah, they get into that. And the Inquisitor's in there with her, shoves some metal down her throat and says, "Burn it." And at first she tries to resist, and she realizes that there's no point of trying to resist this. So, not knowing what to do or what this thing might do, thinking that if they're going to kill me, they can do it easily. They don't need to give me a medal to kill me. They can just the Inquisitor could just lop my head off right now. Like what? What they would have already done it with me unconscious if they're going to kill me. So it's something else. So she goes in and burns it, and all of her medals instantly disappear.
And then I'm like, oh, so this is like the 13th medal?
Yeah.
This is like a medal that can get rid of medals or make them all inert.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to think of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bit of new information.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't identify yet to what this medal is, but yeah. There's lots of medals out there in the world anyway, so there could be all sorts of different medals out there.
Right.
Yeah, so she's and the Inquisitor just leaves, and she just doesn't really know how to feel. I guess she feels for her medals; they're all gone, and and feels the pressing of the emotions from the Lord of Ruler just like slam down on her without her medals. And this is probably the first time since joining the crew she's been not even with like trace medals. Like, so she's become so used to having medals and just subconsciously burning medals because they said she would do that. Mm-hmm. That this must be a really interesting feeling for her.
Right.
It's probably been over a year since she's been like this.
So she's back into that really depressed, scraping by state that she was in before. No abilities, no way to be self-reliant, and just basically just at the whims or the mercy of whoever has her in this oppressive situation. I mean, that has to be really deprecating to you to be like, oh my gosh, now I'm back in a situation where I'm powerless. I have no skill set that's going to get me out of this thing right now. That's got to be just like demoralizing in that moment.
Medals that force you to pass medals is weird. Yeah, I mean, extra strength X-Lux, it's weird how it works. But are there not to get too graphic, you ever get a colonoscopy before? That stuff they make you they make you drink this stuff the night before to get everything out before you go in for that. And that stuff works.
It's not barium. Or is that barium's the one that coats your insides.
Yeah, when they make you drink like this. It tastes disgusting, but you drink a really entire gallon of it, and you drink it over like a couple hours. But like literally, they tell you like drink it next to in the bathroom because it works so fast.
Really? Is it called the Gwyneth Paltrow diet?
Something like it,
savage.
I went there.
I have no idea what it is, but it is. For all younger listeners, this is what you have to look forward to when you get older.
Yup. A lot of bum stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of weird stuff. The colonoscopy cleanse is 100%. Yes, the colonoscopy cleanse. Oh my god, that stuff is so gross, but it's effective. It works, but man, it is horrible. I still have nightmares about it.
You just gave other people nightmares about it.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like $1,000,000 after you're all done, but it's talking about a cleanse. She gets a moment to look around. Cages, like I said, more of a cage in the cell. Room's empty. Right. There's a couple other cages in there as well. She tries to, feel without the medals. She feels completely empty, and she tries to think of how can I scrape some iron maybe off the bars or something like that, get something in me.
Right.
And then she starts thinking about the 11th metal and like what it felt like. She's like, it felt like gold, and gold showed her a vision of what she could have been. And it seemed to her like the 11th metal showed her what others could have been. So like maybe ATM's not the opposite. Like maybe this is the opposite of gold and ATM's something completely different. That's what she starts thinking.
Yep. And she starts breaking it down into, instead of breaking it down to like pairs, she starts breaking it down into quartets, basically.
Right.
Which then leads her to thinking that gold and ATM aren't a pair.
Right.
Gold and ATM are part of a quartet, and that their pairs haven't been identified yet. I mean, good for her. I mean, the strategy is great. I mean, she's definitely got a strategic mind. So good for her on breaking that down. Yeah. Really impressive.
Yeah. At this point, the Inquisitor comes back in, opens the door, and as soon as she opens the door, she tries to run, which easily snatched by the Inquisitor.
Tara, I thought that too, that she was going to start nibbling on the bars. I really thought she was going to like a squirrel, just try and like, get some off like on her teeth and try to swallow like little bits. I literally thought she was going to do that. So Tara, I'm right there with you. Yes.
Yeah. She cries out to no avail, tries to yell for help, and the Inquisitor's like, what are you doing? Stop. Like, shut up right now. And she does get a brief look outside of there. They take her out at this point, and it looks like the palace is completely unused here. Doesn't look like anyone's traveled through it at all. They go up and climb up the tower. And you get a description of this room. So it's in the top of this tower. It's glass surrounding like a tower with like it seems like one piece of glass is like circled around, like blown all the way around, like one blown piece of glass.
Yeah, like stained glass kind of thing.
But not but one continuous piece all around.
Right. So it's not like segmented at all.
Right.
Just, yeah.
Pretty cool, like visual if you want to imagine something like that. And the Lord Ruler's sitting on the throne in the middle, and now he's young again. Looks like he did in the square. And there's 7 Inquisitors all lined up. So the 2 that took her up, and she realizes one of the 2 is the guy peppered her face, and it looks like he's already healing from it already.
Right.
Like she's like, oh, well, thought it would last longer than that. So 9 total Inquisitors in the Lord Ruler, and then she sees her dad step forward. And he even brings up, because we got a Skull Rebellion going on. The High Praetor says this, like, do we have really time for this crap? Like, is this really?
Right.
And the Lord was like, who cares about what's going on? That doesn't matter. Skull Rebellion,
right.
Who cares? It's good.
By the way, it comes up that there's like allusions to the fact that even though he's young, he still sounds kind of weak. So it's almost like he reverted to his young self a little too quickly or something like that. Because it's mentioned a couple times, like his voice doesn't quite match his youthful appearance.
Yeah.
A little bit. So I'm like already kind of suspect. I'm like, you might not have waited long enough to revert to your youthful self in order to, be truly youthful in all aspects of your persona. So
yeah,
that was my thinking right now.
Yeah. And Vince is sitting there quietly as they start like arguing, and the Inquisitors petition to take over the Ministry of Orthodoxy, basically the church, and the Lord was like, we've already been through all this. Like, no, the answer is no. Like the obligators have it. Stay in your lane. He's like, I got new evidence though that there's corruptions within the obligators. And the Lord Ruler's like, what new evidence do you have? And he goes, her. And points, Vin realizes at this point that she's the bait. And they turn her and like, you can't lie to the Lord Ruler. He'll see right through it. Like, and he goes right up to her. It's like, basically like, who's your daddy and what does he do? My man's
about to put down the Few Good Men courtroom scene right now.
Can't handle the truth. Yeah, so Lord Ruler approaches her, asks her, who her dad is, point to her dad, and finally Vin, like, why am I fighting this? and just
because she's still got that depression thing going on from the Lord Ruler. She can't fight it.
So. She can't fight anymore, and she says, "The Lord Praelin's my father." And he turns immediately to, he's like, "Is this true?" He first starts denying. He's like, "You're lying to me. Have you ever, slept with Scott?" He's like, "Yeah, but I always took care of it." "Did you always take care of it?" He goes, "Well, there might have been one that I didn't." And he's like, "So this is offspring of yours? Okay, that's a violation of his rules." He finally admits that he had children, with the Ska woman, and the Lord. Basically, the Lord Ruler's like, "All right, go and kill him," and they kill her father right in front of him. That's it. Inquisitors come in. Pounce on him,
man.
Like hyenas.
They go feral, and that's exactly what I thought of too. Was like the end scene in Lion King when the hyenas go at the scar, and I was like, they went feral, like bared teeth and claws.
Yeah.
They've been waiting to do that a long time.
Yeah. So the lead Inquisitor's name's Carr. We learned that much. And the Lord Ruler, grants him leadership now over the Ministry of Orthodoxy. So now they're in charge of not just the steel ministry but now also the church.
Yep.
And then he orders the half-breed Ska to be killed. But then the Inquisitor petitions again to keep her alive. Says, hey, he can give the rest of their crew. Like, let us work her torture on her. She's still useful. Let's not kill her yet.
Right.
Yeah. And that is true. The Lord Ruler don't give two shits at all. He gives no shits about any of it.
Yeah. I mean, because
you're still talking about this colonoscopy. Sorry.
Yeah. A lot of shit talk tonight. All right.
Oh no! The double entendre is a lot of shit talk. Oh, hey.
I haven't dropped it yet.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite quotes to tell my wife all the time. When I have to go really badly, I just I said, I'm always full of shit. It's just who I am. But dad jokes, double entendres, all.
Yeah, I can see the happy eye roll right now in my head. My mind's eye, I can see her.
I'm always full of shit. Anyways, so that's how we end this chapter with the Inquisitors, petition to keep her alive to work out the rest of the crew. Basically tells her, hey, we'll get it out of you. We always do. We had torture ways. We'll torture it out of you. You'll give it all up. And we end chapter 36 that way. So,
and it was really important, by the way, that for the end of the book, that everyone witnessed the Lord Ruler's edict that the Inquisitors are now in charge.
Yeah,
it was really critical.
It was.
Didn't know that at the time, but it was really critical that everybody in that room saw that, so that way there's no one that can refute that.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything from this chapter before we move to chapter 37?
That was a quick shift. It was a quick shift. I had like a glimpse of hope because Finn's dad showed up, but then it was very quickly like, nope, he's dead.
No.
Oh wait, isn't it this chapter though that they bring in Sazed?
No, that's next chapter.
Oh, okay. I had it written down as being part of this chapter.
No, it's
they were all like jam packed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and usually I write like little double lines that separate when something happens in a chapter, and I wrote it right before.
We're not to the final chapter. There's one little small chapter, 37, between that and the end.
Okay.
Chapter 38 is the last chapter. Oh, then the
gotcha.
But
you got lost in the Sanderlanch.
Yeah,
that's what I did, man. It was too much. It was too much.
I did too.
Yeah.
I didn't even take notes because I was just locked in the whole time.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
It's the fastest I've ever read in my
life. Awesome. So chapter 37. It's Doxon's point of view, which is over there, and he's trying to keep the rebellion from getting too chaotic. So he's trying to manage all this, and it's on the rails. Like, I mean, it's on the rails, but it's nearly off the rails. I mean, it's chaotic, and he's just trying to hold it all together and try to keep all the different moving parts. He gets a messenger that comes in saying, Vin's been taken captive, and the Inquisitors are holding her. You know, and Ham comes in to say, you know, one noble house has fallen already. You know, and Doxson's about to call for. What is that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was which one was it?
It was Alariel. Sorry,
Alariel. Yeah.
House Alariel. I remember that.
Okay. Sean's house.
I didn't write it down.
Shan's house.
Yeah.
Shan
that's right.
Yeah.
That's Shan's house.
So that house is
Whose house?
Shan's house.
Whose? I'm sorry. Run DMC. Go ahead.
Ducks. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, Ham gives his report, and Doxson's, you know, about to call for Sazed, you know, try to get more, you know, just basically give him in the loop of what's going on and try to get some, I guess, guidance. When a group of Skull come in and bring in a prisoner, you know, a bag over the head and everything like that, and they pull the bag off, and it's our boy Elend Venture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Elend just immediately, you know, they're thinking about killing him right there, like, you know, he's a nobleman, let's kill him. And Elend says, you know, hey, wait, let me talk. I can talk the nobility into not resisting this. You know, we have the same enemy. Like, the Lord Ruler's enemy, not, you know, like, let me do what I can do. You know, no need to slaughter all the nobility too. Like, we can work together. You know, Doxson actually snorts, you know, at this. He's like, like, whatever. Like, pshaw.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. You know, and Elend presses, you know, telling Dox he needs him. Say, like, hey, did you consider what's going to happen after all this? You know, are you guys going to be able to actually run all this stuff? We've been running this economy for years and doing everything like that. Like, you need us too. Like, we want to work with you, not like, you know, let's be on the same team. You know, and immediately Elend recognizes Ham and turns to him and says, Ham, I recognize, you know Valette. Just ask Valette. She'll vouch for me. Like, and they're like, yeah, we all know you know Vin. Like, we all know this. It's it's not a secret to us. Like, we know she'll vouch for you. We don't care. We know who you are.
Right.
And she starts, you know, even ask, you know, where is Valette? And,
right. He's even concerned, like, where is she?
Yeah.
And all of this madness that's going on.
And they're
right
like,
now.
oh, she went to go visit the Lord Ruler, and Ellen's just like, what? And then we switch back to Vin.
Yep.
So we switch back to her being thrown back in her cell, and this is when the Inquisitor said, like, you know, when your brother came, or when we caught your brother, you know, we probably tortured him too fast and killed him too fast because he never gave you up. We should went slower. We won't make the same mistake twice. We'll go slow on you. You know, and they said, in fact, we got something even better than that. And they bring in Sazed.
Oh,
completely naked and beat into a pulp.
Oh, like barely conscious.
Yeah. Ugh. And they say, like, hey, listen, we're actually not going to torture you. We're going to torture him until you talk.
Which I want to go back for a sec, because, like, what do you think Vin thought when she heard that her brother never gave her up? After all the things, like, she thinks about her brothers, like, to hear from the Inquisitors, like, yeah, we tortured the shit out of him and he never ratted you out. Like, to me, I was like, whoa, okay. So maybe Vin looked at that as like, maybe I need to rethink how my brother, you know, felt towards me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's got to flip everything on its head for her, because here it is. Yeah. She's used to this idea of abandonment
and betrayal.
You know, I mean, her mother was going to kill her. Her brother, you know, basically like raised her up and taught her all this stuff and kept saying, hey, but be careful because everybody's going to betray you. Hell, I'm going to probably betray you. And now she comes to find out he never betrayed her. It was always, to the very end, because the Inquisitor has no reason to lie. Yeah. So, I think it's a slow settling of that information in her mind, because it doesn't really come to grips with her until later on.
It's like the first instance of like her not, you know, her reality not being totally true, and that like everyone's out to get her kind of thing.
Yeah, her perception isn't as bad as it. Yeah, of what her reality was isn't nearly as bad as what it really is. Yeah, people were looking out for her.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was an interesting little part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they throw Sazed in the other cage, and then they walk out. You know, and Sazed's just laying there, and beaten to a pulp. Looks pretty rough, but he still has humor. His voice doesn't sound beaten at all. He just
His voice sounds the same.
Like, yeah. He's like, so how things going, Vin? And he's like, you okay, Susan, over there? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, why are you here? He goes, like, I vowed to kill to keep you safe, so I came here. I got caught on purpose, Vin. He's like, you did this on purpose? Like, he's like, yeah. The ministry always underestimates us keepers.
Yes,
Terracemen. They never know exactly what we are. And also he starts deflating and getting like super weak and withering away. And she's like, Caesar, you okay? And all of a sudden he just like Hulk style, like, you make me angry. Yes. And like grows giant, just rips the bars off the cage and like comes over and rips her door off, and it's like, let's go. The guards run in, see Sazed, and like, oh shit, and like run out. And reminds me of that gif, like where the kid like runs to the room and like turns around like and runs out.
Yeah. They run in the room, they're like, oh, not my table.
Oh, shit. And Sazed says to run, but all she can think of is what Kel told her. Is like, you don't understand what true friendship means, kind of thing. And and she kind of freezes there, and she's like, I can help. He's not moving that fast. He didn't get speed, but he has strength. So she goes and grabs some bars and and starts trying to stab, gets some knives, stabs a few soldiers, but they're surrounded. She gets hit by a quarterstaff, and like without pewter to enhance, she's thrown against a wall. Everything's kind of looking pretty dire at this point. They're surrounded by guards with spears and quarterstaffs and swords, and it's just them. And Sazed is starting to deflate again.
Right.
They're outmanned, outmatched, and all of a sudden, in strolls Elend. With his little honor guard.
In his dueling cane. His pimp cane.
Yes. Strolls in with his dueling cane. And Elend told the Lord Ruler's men that he's taking Vin. I'm a nobleman. I'm taking Vin. And they're like, the hell you are. Like, like you don't have any authority here. Like, I don't care who you are. And so the ministry soldiers surround Elend, and it looks like this is just a quick farce that just didn't work. It's pretty dire until Vin scans around the room. She's like, I have to help some kind of way, and sees a chest and sees her like one tassel of her misclip peeking out. She's like, oh, it's on.
And this was after now Sazed was trying to talk her into be like, hey, let's bug out.
Get out. Just run.
Let these dudes go ahead, take the fall. We gonna bug out.
Yeah.
And let's save ourselves. And she was like, nah, can't do that.
Can't do that. Yeah.
Then boom, she sees her cloak and she's like,
when she reaches down, finds a vial still attached in the pocket, pops it open, takes it down, and goes full Mistborn. I mean, just
she went full Popeye, spinach style.
As she jumps in, like flares her like steel push and like smashes all the guards back, and Elend just is like, Valette? Like, and Vin's so excited, like, you came back for me. You came, in this little teenage gushing moment, while all this chaos is happening. And Elend explains how he found her, saying, I went to Doc's and he told me you're here, and blah blah blah. And he's like, that's all good, And then Elend's like, you got to get out of here. And he's like, no, I got my Mistborn capability. I'm going back up to Lord Ruler again. Like, it's like, what are you doing?
I was like, oh, what? You just broke out of prison and you're like, oh man, I got the stuff and I got my little vial. Okay, I can heal myself a little bit. Time for me to go back into the fray. And I'm like, no.
Regroup, rethink it. She's like, I think I figured out how to kill the Lord Ruler. Like, I think I figured it out.
Because she's like, oh, well, and of course we find out later on. She was like, oh yeah, well, I saw these images. I think I know how those work now. That's what she's thinking in her head. Mm-hmm. She has no empirical evidence to support that. Yeah, thank you. her inner Kelvalier is what we're going to call it right now.
There we go.
She's just like, I'm going to go ahead and go. I think I've got an idea. and then just strolls up the stairs.
Yeah. And that's how we end this chapter, with her running off. And Sazed actually giving the nod of approval, like, hey, I'm not going to stop you.
Because he
got this figured out?
knows once you're into that Kelvalier mode, just let him go. You can't stop him.
Yep.
Poor thing.
And we end chapter 37 that way, with her running off to go confront the Lord Ruler again.
Hold my beer.
What? Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. or on Reddit, is for ladies, it's always hold my Cosmo.
Yeah.
Which those are terrible. The hold my Cosmo things are like so bad. But anyway, hold my beer is definitely accurate here.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys ready for chapter 38?
Yes, I love the beginning of chapter 38 because it's an Inquisitor POV.
Yeah. It starts out with Vin flying up through the mist.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and she's flying up through the mist, and she has an idea of how this will work.
Mm-hmm.
And then it switches to Kar's point of view.
Yeah.
Where the Lord Ruler is granting the Inquisitor control of the Ministry, and Kar thinks finally, centuries of trying to gain control, it's finally coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Anytime a situation like that happens, it's like, oh, that dude's about to die. He just got to the point he wants to be at. He's gonna die.
Yeah.
Yup. It's like when a young guy in like a war movie is like all like, man, I can't wait to get home to my little lady. Man, I'm gonna have a Coney Island hot dog. And
yeah. And you should get to see how Inquisitors see too through the
sniper shot to the neck.
Yeah.
You got it, Will. Well done.
I've seen this story before.
Yeah. So during this, you actually get to see how the Inquisitors see, which I thought was really interesting. So, their eyes have steel spikes through them, so they can't see normally. Like, they don't see anymore. They're blind, like you would normally see, but they can see allomancy. So they pretty much can make out the entire world through metal. And since everyone has trace amount of metals in them, they can see, the outline of all these different metals, even non-allomantic metals. They can still see all these different tiny little metals and things that are inside people normally. Blood has
like
its
cobblestones and
everything. You can see everything.
But they've been referred to as creatures the entire book, and it's great to get the POV. I'm sorry, I'm sitting really far away from the mic. It's great to see the POV thing because then you realize they're human. They're definitely human. They 100%. Think like humans and all that. Yeah. And so it starts giving you a little bit more insight to there's not a lot of differences between these Inquisitors and every other Allomancer or Misting or Mistborn out there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. I was like, okay, so now we're getting some insight because it was always just like, again, it was the term creature has been thrown around so many times about them that you wondered, are they another species?
Right. Yeah. I love Pytho's comment here. The only thing that make this worse is if he was retiring in 3 days.
Oh, yeah. In 3 days, I'm going to be off the force.
Finally got it done. Right before my retirement date.
That's right. Oh, man. That's good. Well done, Pythos. Well done.
Well done. Yeah. The only way is be able to see with metal, but the metal is acting like light through other matter. Yeah. So it's this really weird way of seeing, but they can still see. Yeah. It's just it looks all like blue lines everywhere. And as he looks around the room, the alligators are super scared about what's going on. Like they're all kind of huddling in the corner, scared. And the Inquisitors all around are super exhausted, and they're all about to head out to go to sleep because apparently they get tired really easily, and they do need to take their naps because otherwise they can't just keep going. They are exhausted. It's been a long day.
Plus, they got to heal. I mean, I'm sure that healing process every time they get injured has got to be draining as hell.
I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the Lord Ruler says to Kar, he's like, so you finally got what you want, huh? And as he says this, a single coin kind of bounces across the floor. And they're kind of like, look at each other like, what? And he picks the coin up, and then dozens more coins come flying through the window, followed by Vin flying through the window behind it.
Right.
Shattering through.
But you created enough like breaks in it so that you can just like bust through that thing.
Yeah. And she immediately runs towards the Lord Ruler, burning the 11th metal, sees the other figure, and stabs into the other one, goes right through. And she's like, I thought this would work. I could touch myself when I
Shit.
burned gold. I
Oh my
thought this
goodness.
was going to be the way. Fuck.
I wish I could see the Lord Ruler's face in that moment. Just him to be like, what were you thinking? just the quizzical look, just like, okay,
you
that's a play.
You stabbed at the air next to me. Like, so he doesn't see this image. Like, she always sees it.
That's gotta be
So
weird.
he's like, she's like randomly stabs in the air next to him. Like, he's like, huh? Like,
he's like, what drugs did they give you down there in that dungeon? This poor thing. She came up, threw the coins, bust through the glass. I'm gonna assume did a superhero pose, superhero landing, and then got up, runs super like anime style, runs up the stairs, and then stabs next to him. That again, you'd be like,
the imagery.
what shrooms are you on? Can I have some?
And immediately it's like car crashes into Vin. And Lord Ruler immediately calls for all those other Inquisitors, and Vin's pinned down, trapped, being choked out. And another Inquisitor comes strolling into the room, and they're like, "Oh, he has back up. This is it for Vin. Like, Lord Ruler's not going to let the Inquisitors talk them out of this point. Like, she's done for.
Here we
Vin's
go.
going to be dead." And this other Inquisitor comes in, walks up behind Carr, and rips a spike out of the Inquisitor's back, killing him instantly.
WTF. Instant WTF in my mind. I was like, what the high holy F just happened just now?
It's like, and Vin, the Lord Ruler of Vin, everyone's shocked. They're like, what is going on? Like, and the Lord Ruler's like, how dare you betray me? Like, you are my chosen children. Like, the Inquisitors are like his little puppy dogs. Like,
yeah.
Like, he's in shock. And he actually, Vin realizes that even the Lord Ruler, like, he usually shows no emotion and like could care less about anything. And like this point, he's even like, WTF? Like,
yeah,
what's going on?
But for different reasons,
right? And Vin
looks, gets even more WTF.
Yeah, because Vin looks he looks familiar. He goes, holy shit, it's Marsh.
Well, no, first she thinks it's kind of Kelsier.
Yeah, first thinks it looks like
Kelsier. Like, is that Kelsier?
It's like Kelsier? Like, no, it's Marsh.
No, it's Marsh. And I'm like, okay, this is too many things. This is too many things in like a really small,
really fast happening. Like, what the hell's going on?
Is real.
Yeah, what the hell's going on? And
oh man,
yeah, Lord Rule's calling the rest of the Inquisitors, and Marsh is like, you see the pile of spikes over there? Yeah, I already took out the rest of the Inquisitors. All your Inquisitors are dead. Like,
so we find out that they all got a Teddy Ruxpin pull pin on the back. You can just pull that joint out, and they stop talking.
Yeah,
well done. I mean,
yeah,
man.
And both Marsh and Vin like start charging towards the dais as well. They're going up, and the Lord Ruler starts just throwing elements at them, and they're just being weighed down, trying to think not to do it. What did Will think at this moment? That's a good question.
Yeah, man. Well, I know I'm talking a lot, but please, please, man.
I was like, they have spikes in the back. What are the spikes in the back? Where did that come from? I thought it was just the eyes.
Just the eyes.
But they talked about how the spikes all connected too in the body. I think at one point.
Yeah, in the epilogue, Marsh explains a little bit about all
the
of
11 spikes.
Oh,
11 spikes. Yeah, but that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
when Marsh showed up, I was just like, of course, somebody we would have never expected shows up just to save the day. And it's the guy that we thought got flayed and freaking dismembered, but no, like,
yeah.
I literally, when I was reading this the whole time, like, I was just like, like.
More Spike's Hot Topic style.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I got my 6th grade studded belt on for that.
Yeah.
Lovely. The visual imagery behind that, I'm loving this.
dude, Alondo, I had the.
Oh no, not the flip.
Swoop.
Not the flip.
I had the swoop. I wore all black Converses.
There you go.
Belt.
Nice.
You had the wallet with the chain.
I would have. Yeah, Alamancers would have thrown me all over the place.
I love it.
A lot of metal. I had my ears pierced too, actually.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There you go.
Yeah, gotta do that.
Yeah,
I only have one ear pierced, but yeah, maybe one day me and you will rock some earrings, man.
yeah, there you go.
I'll have to, yeah.
Yeah. So, they launch their attack. They're getting like pummeled by emotions. But Marsh reaches the dice before Vin, rips the shirt off of the Lord Ruler and exposing his back. He was thinking the entire time there'd be a spike there like them, and it's just a normal back. And he's like, shit. Failed again. Like, and Lord Ruler just smacks him off to the corner, like, and he collapses in a heap in the corner, like barely breathing. And of course, Vin tries to attack as well, gets thrown back. Her leg snaps as she's thrown against the wall, even with pewter, bones sticking out like compound fracture.
Yeah,
like
she's like, my bones turned at an angle that was unnatural.
Yeah. And then he starts just talking to her like, I'm immortal. How do you think this is gonna work? Do you think this is actually gonna work? Like, you think any of this is gonna work? The Scott Rebellion out there doesn't matter. I've been through a million of those. I've been beheaded. I've been flayed. I've been burned at the stake. I survived it all. I am God, is what he says.
You got me monologuing.
Yeah.
I thought that the whole time I was reading that part. I was like Syndrome from The Incredibles.
Yeah. You got me monologuing. And, and Vince just keeps on thinking, like, something different about him than the man in the logbook. Like, this is not the same guy from the logbook. And she starts to give into the emotion, and everything like that. And, as he's turning toward, I think he actually starts turning towards Marsh instead of her, because she's now crumped up, broken leg. She's not threatened anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Starts turning towards Marsh, and then it clicks for her. She's like, he's a terrorist. And she sees the bracers, that are piercing the skin. She goes, he's a terrorisman. And she says it out loud. She goes, Rashik? And he turns and goes, like, how'd you hear that name? He goes, you actually killed the Hero of Ages. You're not him. You're not the guy from the logbook. You're the Pac-Man. Like, and as all this happened, the mist is pouring in and curling around Vin, like actually giving her strength. And he's like, you're a ferochemist. The braces on your arm. That's how you get your power. Like, and it clicks off for her right then. So she's like, but they're inside of them, so you can't touch metals inside. He's like, but I can pierce copper clouds. So maybe if I flare iron hard enough, like, and she starts just every ounce of her, and the mist is flying around her. She's flaring her iron as the mist is kind of like coaching her on.
And she's getting pushed by Lord Ruler, like the metals inside of her are getting like
the metals inside of her being almost like ripping out of her. Mm-hmm. It's this really epic scene. She finally flares and she sees two more lines appear going towards the bracers, and she's like throws the bracers off, and the Lord Ruler goes immediately like shock mode, like no, and starts scrambling for it. She throws him out the window, like with an automatic push. Just like throws the bracers out the window, and immediately he starts to just like Indiana Jones Temple or the Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Last Crusade. I'm saying Last Crusade.
That's Last Crusade. That's what I meant. Yeah, drinks the whole.
I literally wrote that note, Alan. I literally wrote Indiana Jones, Last Crusade. That's the only reason why I know it.
Yeah, Last Crusade. It starts like withering away, like
he's dusting.
Yeah, it's like, because without the bracers, he can't stay. All the age of thousands of years is crashing back down on him.
Yeah.
And she thinks he's pretty much defeated, and says it shows up, gives her some medals so she can get Pewter back. Says it is shocked as well to see Marsh there. And yeah. So what do you think about this epic battle? It was a lot of epiphanies here. A lot of Look, I know you called it earlier on that he's a terrorist man, but just like,
yeah. Again, I already had some thoughts about that. I was so shocked about the fact that he was Rashik. I was like, no, okay. Didn't put two and two together there.
Yeah.
What I was thinking as they were reading the diary was that at some point in time, he had a flip in morality.
Yeah.
And that something tainted him. Like, absolute power, tainting absolutely.
Yeah.
Corrupting absolutely. That's what I thought had happened. I did not even think for a moment that he was waka 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 Pac-Man. No.
And Vin even points out, he's like, you hated him because you wanted a terroristman to be the hero of your legends, and it wasn't a terroristman that was, and you hated him for it.
Yep.
So you killed a good man to take his
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
Will, did you see it coming? I mean,
No. The whole time I'm just, my mind is blown. Like, I'm like, all right, what's next? Where are we going now? I'm like, bring it on. Let's go to the next book. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still digesting it. I gotta go back and reread it more, to be honest. But
yeah, it's a lot to digest. A lot
it's
happens.
a lot.
Really
It's
ending.
crazy lots. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
insane
and the fact
to
that
digest.
yeah. So epic ending. I gotta go back and read it more.
Yeah.
A lot of unexpected things happened.
Yeah, and it's just so much that happens in such a short, succinct bit of pages. Basically, I kept thinking the whole time when they said the bracelet that they're not bracelets, they're
bracers.
What are they called? Bracers. Thank you.
Yeah.
When they come off and they roll, I keep thinking of the cinematic thing where it would be like the slow shot on the bracers rolling out the thing, and all I kept thinking was, get them bracers. Do not let those things just disappear.
Yeah.
All right. Because I know the way that it works is that someone else can't use those because Sage had proved that with Vin earlier.
Okay.
However, that doesn't mean it can't be done.
Yeah.
And my man has saved up a whole bunch of power in them bracers. We're talking 1,000 years of capabilities in those bracers. So if someone is able to unlock that capability to use another terrorist's bracers, metals, them bracers become crazy important. I'm like, someone should have dove out the deck on window and chased them things.
So I know when we were going through this book, and this is how it was for me too, and I did on purpose where we didn't focus too much on these little like blurbs before each chapter. And we skimmed over them a whole lot because it's one of those things like on a reread, they are so much more profound.
Yes.
Like when you're reading through them, like it's like, okay, what does all this have to do with it? Like the little logbook snippets you get before each chapter where it's working through the Hero of Ages, and you're seeing that relationship between Rashik and the Terracemen, and it's from the Hero of Ages point of view from the logbook. But it's when you're reading it, these little excerpts are like, this is kind of throwaway stuff. It's not till you finished it and you go back and you're like, this is actually a whole nother foreshadow. Like there's just so much in there. Like it's just
because the whole time it took me about until chapter 10, I think it was, is when I finally realized that all those snippets were from who I thought was the Lord Ruler.
Right. And that's what I was meant to think the entire time.
Right. Yeah. And then to get to the end of the book and realize, no, even if you thought it was the Lord Ruler, it's actually the person who actually did save everyone from the darkness,
the deepness.
Thank you. And it was the guy who was his, most trusted person with him who betrayed him, and that's the reason why the entries stopped abruptly.
Right,
man.
Yeah. So Sazed shows up. He's like, the Lord Ruler's not dead, He's still alive over there. And Marsh gets up, heal himself. Sazed helps Vin up. And outside, people have gathered around Critic Shaw, and they're all cheering. And Vin walks up to Lord Ruler and says, listen, do you hear the people cheering? They're not cheering for you. They never cheered for you.
She's cold as ice.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get this whole thing. Inquisitors are all dead now. Marsh is in charge. He realizes it's not his job. He, the sin's been passed. It's been heard. He's now in charge of the ministries. He's the only guy left.
Yep.
And right before he kills Vin finally kills Lord Ruler. She turns and says to him and says, Kel said, he's not dead because you cannot kill hope. And the Lord Ruler last words were, you don't understand. You're doomed yourself by killing me. It's not what I've did. It's what I'm doing.
Right. What I'm doing. Something he's actively doing.
You've doomed yourself by doing this. And she doesn't care. She stabs the spear through the Lord Ruler's heart and kills him. And that's how we end the final chapter before we go to the epilogue. So
I was waiting for someone to be like, "Oh, don't kill him. We're gonna put him in jail," and that's how he was gonna come back to like power or something. And then
No.
she was like, "No,
Nope. He's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely something I was going to bring up next in the epilogue as well, because it keeps coming back up with Finn's thoughts, because she's haunted by what the Lord Ruler's last words were.
Yeah.
But, you know, what was he protecting everybody from? And was the Lord Ruler really a bad guy?
Yes.
Okay.
He betrayed the person who saved everybody from whatever this unholy thing was. It was going to take everything out.
Right.
And he couldn't justify it. There's nothing he said that justified it. So,
right.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it's a gray area.
Just because Lord Vader, repented on his deathbed in the Death Star doesn't mean he's not responsible for mass genocide.
Shoot.
But he gave it all up for Luke at the very end. Yeah, he still isn't.
Yeah, whatever. He also gave everything. He also gave everything up for his wife, who was going to die in childbirth, but then went out and slaughtered a whole bunch of kids in the freaking Jedi temple. Come on.
Yeah.
To save my 2 kids, I need to slaughter all these others. Nah. You a bad dude. You a bad dude.
You're bad. So anything from the final scene of all the confusion and all the M. Night Shyamalan plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
Enough to make your head spin.
I gotta go back and reread. Lots of plot
twists.
Well, I mean, I feel you on that, man. If I wasn't taking notes, I probably would have too. But luckily I had my notes because I was like, this sounds important. This sounds important. This sounds important. And I'm much better being able to kind of track the threads, kind of coming together because of that. And you said you weren't taking notes because you were just like reading it. That's
I was
rough.
locked in. I did some painting today and then just had to do other shit. So like I didn't have all the time. And I was like, man, there's so much going on. So I had to go back and reread and really like
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Lord Ruler's dead. What now? That's my whole question.
Oh, man.
What now?
Yeah. So you guys ready for the epilogue?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we get to the epilogue where Sazed is trying to explain to both Marsh and Vin what the Lord Ruler was, that he was a cure chemist and an allomancer at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Big reveal there.
Yeah. And
because that's never been explored before.
Yeah, and he's trying to explain it, and Marsh and Vin are like, "What?" And he starts breaking it down really simply. Like he's like, youth is one thing keepers can do, but we have to stay old the equal amount of time we stay young. So, if we want to look 1 year older, then we have to stay older, 1 year older for a certain amount of time to get 1 year younger. So it's
right.
It's equal.
And it gets harder the more you use it.
Right.
So the time will lengthen out.
But with allomancy, just like with Vin trying to burn to give the extra power within her, but she couldn't because it wasn't. But because he can do it because it's his own, he's actually able to increase that power tenfold. So he might only take an hour of being old, and then he can, do 10 hours of being young.
And it made perfect sense,
right?
If you think about someone who actually has both skills,
right? So he was able to store up these massive amounts because he has both.
Yeah.
And they start trying to think about well, maybe he was the person who's given allomancy, because there's no mention of allomancy before, the Lord Ruler, something they knew after that. So
yeah, maybe he got it from the Cave of Ascension or whatever it's called.
The Well of Ascension. Yeah.
Well of Ascension. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe that was it. And by using both, he pretty much became immortal, because he could do both, because he was a Mistborn and a full cure chemist, so he could
because he was a Terraceman. And then the drop of the freaking chapter is that's the reason why they have the breeding program for the Terracemen, is to make sure no one else can get the capability of having both powers.
Yeah,
Feruchemy and allomancy. I'm like, oh, that's why they're all eunuchs.
Yeah, and that's why he took out. Yeah,
Oh my god!
Because he didn't want them accidentally breeding with Alamancers.
He did not want email.
He didn't want
the same capabilities
competition
that he has.
Yeah.
Oh,
because then he might have competition to overthrow him.
Because then everybody could be a Lord Ruler. All you need is just to have the correct,
Mixture,
nobleman with Alamancy and a Terraceman. And boop. Yep. Man, needle drop.
Yeah. So he actually destroyed his own people, his own religion, and wiped it all out because he wanted to keep his power.
Again, bad dude.
Yeah. And we learned that Elend is meeting with the Ska and the nobles to draft a new nation. That Elend's been crowned king, King Elend, and he's in his philosophical way trying to make it work the best way he can. Vin goes because during the push, her earring ripped out. She goes back, puts her earring back in.
That sounded painful, by the way. Yeah. Something about your earlobe your earring got ripped out your earlobe, and then you put it back in. As Will, you and I as pierced ear people, that sounds pretty painful, right? Am I the only one? I ain't put it back. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a question that came in chat. I just want to, did either one of you think 24 hours ago that this is the way that the Lord of Rules is going to die in this book?
Oh, hell no. No way. I was like, these guys got a snowball's chance in hell of beating this guy, especially when he came in, bitch slapped Kel, took off half of his face. I was like, here's issue number 1. And then he's like, wait. Bloop, and takes the spear out his chest and just sticks it through him. I was like, yeah, that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
And Pythos also pointed out something else from it, and you can store 10 times the use by burning that too. So you could actually not only you can create an infinite loop. That's why it becomes.
Oh, that's right. Dang.
So by burning the storage aspect of it, you can.
You burn and you store by burning it. Oh man!
So you create an infinite loop cycle of just eventually becoming immortal.
Wow!
You just need to every once in a while, just for a couple minutes, be old.
Be an old man.
Yeah, for a few minutes, and that's
what
you do. And Vin wants to know what actually happened at the Well Ascension and why is she special? Why is something? And she's asking all these questions out loud, and Stacey's just like, I think the only person that could answer that you just killed. So we'll probably never know exactly what happened because he's dead. And Sage is like, he would have died anyway, but it's better you did kill him because it'll go good for it's important for my recording of this history that a Ska killed him versus him just dying of old age. It's for the historical record. And Vin's gonna take it back. He's like, wait, you're writing this all down? He's like, of course, I'm a terraceman. It's what I do. I have to, record the histories.
And she's like, "Are you going to mention my name?"
It's like,
please don't.
I'll withhold it for a little while, but it's going to be there eventually. And Marsh thinks that he must have found the power in the cave of Alamancy. We got through that. And Vin's wondering about the way the mist reacted to Alamancy and how it was drawn to her, as she, it's always drawn to Alamancy, but it's the way it interacted with her at the very end was just so strange. And she's really wondering about that. And then we get into the whole Marsh explaining about Inquisitors. It's like man, so there's a third spike. Is actually we have 11 spikes. And Marsh even and says, I won't go into all the details. It's very messy to create Inquisitor. In fact, there was there wasn't just one body in there. It
was 3.
It was 3 bodies. That's why there's
3 people were beheaded, dismembered,
and dismembered to create Inquisitor. So it's a very messy process.
And he's like, I don't want to talk about it.
And even he says we'll never forgive Kel for 2 reasons. 1, for actually overthrowing the Final Empire when I worked my entire life to do this, and 2, for getting himself killed doing it. I'll never forgive him. Several corpses. And Marsh asks about the Kandra, and says, well, even the keepers don't know much about them. And Vince is like, well, if Kandra can impersonate people, why didn't they just have Kel go up and why didn't Renew act like Kel in front of and be martyred that way? That way Kel's still alive. And he's like, well, that's not kind of how it works. They actually have to, eat the person that they're impersonating.
And all I
like
thought was
bones and
Monty
all.
Python and the Holy Grail again. Look at the
Look
bones.
at the
You gotta get the
bones.
bones. You gotta get them.
Yeah, and Vince Vin's completely disgusted by this. He's like, you have to
Oh,
eat the
geez.
dead body, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, the contract passed to you. Kel made sure that the contract's now yours. And Vin's like,
Mhm.
I don't want it. And Say's like,
Mhm.
it's probably important to have a contract on your side. There's lots of use for this. And Vin's like, I don't care. Like, he ate Kel. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that thing. Like,
Yeah. And he also cost all the ATM.
yeah, all the ATM.
It
like,
was
yeah.
very expensive. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we find out they went to the storehouses where they thought the ATM was, and it was empty.
Empty.
Yeah.
Where's the ATM?
I think we're getting to that part. But anyway, yeah, I was just you mentioned the ATM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but suggest you keep the Vin still doesn't want that contract around. Elend, wants Marsh to help negotiate the new terms for the ministry because obviously he's now the control. Wants Marsh to be his liaison, since the Inquisitors are in charge. Marsh has plans for the obligators and figures that we'll be able to keep them all in check. But as far as the Inquisitors that are outside the city, he's not sure how many there are, but there's still several. And he's worried about that. But Finn's like, well, now we know how to kill him.
Now we know how to kill him. Yeah.
Don't care about that anymore.
And by the way, I love the fact he explained why the beheading worked.
Yeah.
Because they have the 8 in the chest.
Yeah.
They have the 1 in the back, but they have the 2 in the eyes. But it's like the way they're actually positioned is actually they kind of connect internally.
Yeah, they're pinned with the one in the back to connect them all.
And so removing the head actually severed the one. And I was like, okay, well that makes sense. That's the reason why that worked.
But anything else won't kill Inquisitor.
Nothing else will work. Yeah. So you basically have 2 ways of killing them: beheading them or pulling them out of the back.
Yeah.
Is this where they mentioned like that they showed the Ska how to kill an Inquisitor too?
I think so.
Well, yeah, it gives it. Will, you were on top of that. It gives them hope because they can see that they're not basically immortal or I don't know. They can be felled. Is basically the way to think about it.
Yeah,
because they thought they were invincible. Sorry. Yeah.
And like one way, there's probably multiple ways to kill him, obviously, because Marsh pulled the thing out the back, but then Kel bashed the spikes into the wood and then beheaded him. So
yeah,
now they can see like not only yes they can die, but how to do it.
Definitely. But Vin's, like I said, not worried about the Inquisitor. She's more worried about what the ruler's last words were, and what did he do? She asked Sazed, what is the deepness? And Sazed says, I'm not really quite sure what it was, but it was supposed to destroy us all, and whatever he did, he stopped it. So that's all I really know.
Yeah.
And Sazed's kind of explanation that he gives doesn't add up for Vin. She's like, no, he said you've doomed yourselves. There's something else to this. It's not just he stopped it back then. There's something he's still doing.
Yeah, it's not in the past tense. It's current tense.
It's current.
It's something he's doing.
Yeah.
That prevents whatever it is.
And Sazed suggests that at this point she should just go to Elend. There's no ATM in the treasury. The rebels at the end, were slaughtering surrendered forces. It kind of got chaotic towards the end of this rebellion. Things kind of, maybe people stole it. Who knows? But there's no ATM there at all. They even thought about killing Elend at one point. Elend had given a speech in front of all the Ska and kind of, and obviously probably had some help.
Got him motivated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And did end up being king after everything. And Vin keeps on thinking Kelly be so angry by that. That after all this, and Nolan is king.
Maybe, but I mean, he's not like the other boys.
Yeah, but Sazed corrects him. Yeah, I mean, even Sazed says that. It's he's not just Nolan. He's a good man on the throne.
He's a good man.
We have a good man on the throne.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, for now. Yep. Then we switch to Vin, and she's kneeling in the mist on her good leg, hovering kind of above, or not, but standing above where the window had collapsed in above Elend's study, and Elend's down
the skylight. Yeah,
skylight, and Elend's taking. He's just watching out. She's watching Elend. Doing notes and taking, writing stuff down, and going through orders and administrative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
and Elend's out there trying to create the ideal set of laws. He has some negotiating to do with the nobles and the ska and everything like that, but he's trying to create this more utopia type of society from his philosophy. And, he's trying to do his best, and you got to give it to him. He's definitely has to appease a lot of different factions, a lot of different groups, but at the same time, he's coming, I think, at the right way. Definitely is well at least studied in all this. Is a good person to have in charge for all this. But something keeps herself from going to see Elend. She just thinks, I can't do it. Like, it's not
well,
right.
she keeps thinking to herself, she's like, the person that he met was
was not who I am.
Different person than I really am.
Yeah.
She was like a noble woman,
maybe
blah, blah, blah.
Stay away and hide in the shadows and go back to the shadows.
Right.
Rather than doing anything else, I should just stay, and thinks about just abandoning Elend and doing that. And she thinks about it, hey, everybody betrays everybody. And then she thinks, Reen hadn't abandoned me. Reen didn't. And she hears Reen's voice in her head telling her to go back.
Yep.
So she goes back, drops down, and, makes the little quick, cheesy rom-com line, you shouldn't read so much in front of ladies.
Yeah.
And Elend just smiles and hugs her and realizes that's all she really wanted. It was just a hug.
Bam.
That's all she wanted was a hug.
As a secret rom-com guy, and I love rom-coms. It's like my guilty pleasure. I was like happy with the ending. I was like, yay.
Yeah.
I'm that dude. I'm that guy. Like Sleepless in Seattle, Pyramid Sally. Yeah, I'm like, give it to me.
So the big bad's done. So what next? Where are we going?
I mean, okay,
that's
big
how
bad's done, but now usually when you have a situation like this where the oppressive leader goes away, then there's like usually a fractioning that happens of the lands, and so now you have this like sub territories, and then new sub gods come into play and try to pretend like they can do the same things, or they're the next anointed one. That's what I'm thinking. Is this gonna be the next anointed one is gonna come out the woodworks and be like,
sure,
I know you didn't hear about me, but I'm the Lord Ruler's cousin on his mother's side, and actually I'm the one that was actually preordained to be in charge the whole time anyway.
Sure. Yeah. And what do you think about like the nobles that fled the city? How do you think they're gonna feel about King Elend and the Ska friendship? Like Straff Venture, he
I'm gonna leave that question to Will. Will, what you think?
They're gonna ally with the cousin.
The cousin, yeah.
I mean, multiple factions
on the mama side.
We got Inquisitors out there. I mean, there's lots of stuff still, loose ends that are not tied up. So yeah.
There's a lot of things
and
going
then there's
on.
Just, you doomed yourselves. What else is coming?
See, that's the part that's got me. But it's such an unknown and it's so vague.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no idea what it's referring to. It could be just like a cow that has to be milked every day, and if it doesn't get milked right, it's going to be like a nuclear explosion. I don't know. I mean, who knows?
There's multiple Lord Rulers. He's one of many.
Oh, one of many.
Yeah.
It's
like it's like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Like it's just the Avatar. The whole planet is actually the Lord Ruler. It's it's just the Avatar.
Or it's like the last crappy Star Wars movie. We find out like the Darth Sidious was actually like basically creating clones of himself this entire time.
Exactly.
Could be something like that.
Could be something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Clone machine.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts from this whole book, or any final thoughts on this chapters we covered? Or I know there's a lot to think about, probably a whole lot to talk about. You could probably talk for another hour just about all that. But
I just want to make sure I didn't miss any notes because Death of Inquisitors, like killing. Oh, okay, yeah. So anybody who've ever seen Attack on Titan, which is an anime series,
sure.
The death of the Inquisitors, taking the pin out the back, is like the Attack on Titan, where basically you have these huge monsters who whoever can kill people, and they have to go up and like slit the nape of the neck. That's the only way we can kill them. And I was like, it's the same kind of thing. So it's like you have to come behind them, be sneaky, and just come up and be like, pull a Teddy Ruxpin pin.
Sure.
and then just hope
It's
it's like the Matrix.
it's a very classical trope thing that's been used in a lot. I mean, Attack on Titan's a good example. And this dates back to even Greek literature, the Achilles heel.
Right. Something from behind. It's something that you have to come from behind somebody.
Achilles, as long as he's pierced his heel, he's dead. Everything else, he's immortal. Like it's it's literally in literature and in the world, it's called the Achilles heel for the reason, because Homer kind of created that trope of the one little tiny thing that can unravel all of it.
Right. And it's something weakness. That you have to come up from behind them, be subversive.
The whatever. Small slit in Smaug's armor from Hobbit. I mean, you can get
another example.
Another example. Like it's the one little tiny weakness that. That's where you have to hit. Otherwise,
having between the plates and the scales and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's very much a trope, but it's effective and it's used, like I said, for millennia. If you want to get, Homer, go back thousands of years. I mean, probably before that too. He probably didn't even invent that trope, but we can attribute to him because there's not much written stuff older than the Odyssey and the Iliad.
That lasted,
That lasted exactly. But yeah, so good stuff. Any other final thoughts or any other stuff you want to get off your chest or? Will, how was actually going through like your first real modern fantasy book? I mean,
good question, Alan. Versus
like I know you've done like some Harry Potter and things like that, but like adult fantasy.
Not even. I haven't even read all of any of the Harry Potter books, so this is my first full book. I love how we did this for first time reader for me, doing 2-3 chapters a week. I know it's like slow to a lot of people, but for me personally, like the way that everything is written, looking back, certain parts really take some time for me to digest. So like it's been oh man, how do you sum it up? Like this book it's honestly incredible, and in the ending I still haven't fully like synthesized in my head what the hell happened. But the way it's written, everything, it's amazing. I'm pretty hooked. I'm kind of like, what the hell is going to happen now? Probably not going to sleep tonight.
No.
A lot of things, but yeah, no, it's really good, and it's amazing to me that like how many books does Sanderson have? Like, it's
currently out 24, and then one's supposed to release in October, another Cosmere book, and then next January I think is the next Starlight Archives book comes out, the final, the 5th one.
I thought he had a lot more books in that.
I think
Alan.
I did too.
No, he does. Even if
it's just 24.
Okay. Well, he has non-Cosmere books too, but in the Cosmere.
No, I thought he was asking about all of his books.
All of his books, yeah, there's more because he has other series.
So you're saying 24 is just Cosmere?
Just
Cosmere. I'm like, where is it going to go from here? Like, how does this all tie together?
His other books have
so deep with Allomancy and Farakimi. It's like it's amazing all the shit he's come up with. So.
So I mean,
I tend to think very big picture to a fault, right? Like,
and he wrote the last 3 Wheel of Time books too. Yeah, good point, Zul. Yeah, he did write the last 3 Wheel of Time books.
But the guy, he's passionate about it, and it shows.
So like I mean, a lot of people have compared like the Cosmere to like fantasy MCU. Like it's like we're just getting the Iron Man story right now, but there's a whole Thor story and a Black Panther story and a Spider-Man story, like, and they're all somewhat interwoven, but they're all standalone too. Like it's very much MCU-ish, like if that makes sense. Like eventually, it hasn't happened yet in the series, but eventually, like we'll get Avengers type thing where it kind of all starts to come together. But like right now, it's just like standalone stories, but all in the same universe
for a reason.
For a reason. And there's actually a bigger story going on in the background too, that this book you don't get much of. There's glimpses of it, it won't make any sense at all until we get much more into other books. But yeah,
That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to
the bigger
seeing
picture.
if I pick up the hints. I want to see if we pick up the hints, because there were some things that I thought might be hinting to something outside of this world, but then they all got wrapped up kind of in a bow, and I was like, okay, well then everything right now is self-contained.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the things where it's like there's some extra information that leads to some other story. I'm like, I want that, because those are the love having where I can put a star next to it and say, I bet you this relates to something else in another world, or tangential universe or whatever.
Yeah, I will say that we have met a character in this book already that will appear in other books, if that makes sense.
Great.
So, like, yeah, there's at least one character for this.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah. So favorite character?
Because I love him.
Oh, I mean, I've low hanging fruit for me. No, Will, go for it. Will, you go first. Go.
I need time.
Oh, you need time. Okay, well then, all right. Well, I'm gonna cheat and go with Marsh.
Marsh.
I mean,
Marsh
the guy.
I
mean, look, he already came in with swagger from. Day one when he walked into this book, he came in with swagger. He's got a quiet confidence about himself. He knows who he is as a person. I'm not saying he's a leader, but he's a facilitator of action, and I love that. And then when he comes in, it's almost a no nonsense, get things done, and I will sacrifice my body to make it happen. Boom. This guy is now spikes in the eyes. Again, I'm just super, super thrilled that he's back after what I thought was a devastating death for him, brutal death for him. So,
it was brutal for the other three guys. It was brutal for the other three guys.
Well, which we don't even know what happened exactly there in the process.
Yeah, what's going on there?
But whatever happened to them, I still think about the fact that you have to sit there and get spikes put through your eyes, your back, and your chest. And I'm sure it wasn't like, we're going to put you under while this happens. Nope. This guy was probably like wide awake. And you just see someone.
Ben's like, does it hurt? And he's like, yeah, it still hurts. It hurts all the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And even Carr, I think, mentions there's still aching pain in his eyes.
Yeah.
And he's been the Inquisitor forever. Yeah.
So I feel like that might be an easy choice, but I'm going to go ahead and that's where I went.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got the next easy choice, Ven.
Okay.
But the reason is because she came up with that really freaking cool idea of snapping off the stone arrow tips and putting the metal on them.
Yeah.
She was strategizing.
That was awesome.
Like that opened my mind to like, oh my God, they can like put metal on things and then have it come off so that they can't be like, they can't change the direction. Like, dude,
because
it goes so many ways.
Yeah, man. Opens up. And then the cloud, the pewter cloud.
Yeah.
Oh man. What?
Yeah. Throwing pewter dust everywhere.
I'm blind.
Yeah. So I'll give it to the third most obvious choice, which is Says. Because you gotta give Says some props.
He's always in the running every chapter since he's appeared because he's just cool as a cucumber. This guy. Love him.
God, Says it.
Yeah, like he's always like just around the corner, just like, you okay?
Yeah. So there's a question in chat. Are we taking a week off? No, because I'm going on vacation, so we're gonna keep one in the bag. So we are going to be back next Sunday for recording again. So that way I can release. So we might take off that week. But that'll be the end of August. If we do, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for next week, we are not going to go straight to the Well of Ascension. So that might confuse some people, but we're actually going to be just doing the short story, The 11th Metal from Arcanium Unbound. So it's actually found as a standalone novella. It's only like about a chapter or two long. I mean, it's about the size. It's one chapter, but it's about the size of like 1 or 2 chapters. It's not super long, but it's standalone. I sent Will a copy of that. I don't know if a lot of you got that yet, but
no, I have the credit. I have the credit waiting for me to use
yeah.
on Audible.
So yeah,
I'm, like, ready
so you'll have to go through like the table of contents or like search through and find where that is. The book is not necessarily the first one on there, but it's the 11th Metal. And we're just reading that one story.
I'll go ahead and just do it now.
We'll do the 11th Metal. And if you guys don't have
I have it sitting on my nightstand.
I think you can actually get it online for free too. So if anyone doesn't have that, you can actually, I think, read it online for free too. If you just search for the 11th Metal, Brandon Sanderson, I believe the whole thing's online. Because originally it was set up. Originally, Brandon Sanderson created like a D&D role-playing game for Mistborn, and the 11th Metal was kind of like the little intro to his role-playing game. But then he made it canon and put it in Arcanium Unbound and republish it that way. So
is Arcanium Unbounded, right?
Unbounded, yeah. Sorry, Unbounded.
Okay, just to make sure I'm getting the right thing.
I'm
doing it right now. So
Arcanium Unbounded, which all that is a collection of short stories and then also a little bit of notes from Brandon Sanderson just about how the different worlds work and things like that. So eventually we'll read all of it, but it might be on Sanderson's website. I think it actually is. Thank you, Zul. But yeah, you can actually go on there and read the whole thing. So you don't necessarily have to buy or get Arcanium Unbounded if you want to follow along with us and you haven't read the 11th Metal yet. I do recommend reading it. I do actually recommend, if you're into the Cosmere, to get that book just because there's a ton of good short stories in there. So
are there any spoilers in the other short stories?
Yes. Yeah. So you don't want to get
just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that we shouldn't be reading other chapters.
No, you should not read other chapters in there. Yeah, because there's stuff from all different books.
Because there's this trilogy we're reading, and then there's another trilogy that follows this trilogy.
Yeah, there's another Era 2, and there's Stormlight, and then there's White Sands, there's Elantris, there's Warbreaker. Yeah, there's lots of different worlds. So and a lot of, and so yes, we are eventually going to work through these short stories. But yeah, for you, we'll just go to the table of contents and find which page it starts on, and
got it.
And then you can do the same thing on Audible.
I can do that.
Yeah, you can find which one it is and go there. If you read any other ones, like from Stormlight, it just won't make any sense. So. I mean, you could, but then you'd spoil yourself and it wouldn't make any sense anyway. And you might pick up on some things that really are. Yeah.
Okay. Found it. 11th Metal. And then it's got a postscript after it. 1 minute, 25 seconds.
Yeah. You can read that too.
Okay. Good deal. Yep. Got it.
Okay.
Like 45 minutes. Good.
Yeah. It's a 45-minute read. It's a short read. So we'll do a little light episode next week and then we'll jump right into the Well of Ascension after that.
Good deal.
All right. So yeah, with that, that's all I got for this week. And thanks everybody for coming out live to listen to us. I loved the live chat tonight. Been great. Yeah. Thank you, Zul, with all the periods. Do not read any of the other short stories. Just the 11th Metal.
I'm going to be a rebellious teenager. I'll read what I want, Mom. I don't care what you tell me.
Not read anything else. It won't make, like I said, it won't make much sense, but
I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would.
Yeah. But you'll then like reread something else like, wait, I heard this before. Like, and it might spoil some things there.
Dude, I don't even go on Google and type in the word Sanderson just because I'm just worried that something's gonna get spoiled for me. So I'm just like, I basically black out.
Yeah.
I had enough spoiling tonight with the colonoscopy talk. So
spoiled for life.
No.
I brought it back. One last time.
So how we can be found? The CosmereReads.com is our website. You can find links to everything there. Social media, our Twitter there. You can find links to our Discord. Join that for all of our announcements. We do have a section to talk about Cosmere down towards the bottom. So enjoy that. Enjoy people talking about the Cosmere tremendously. So and like to interact with people that do talk about it. Also feel free to support us. We got, like I said, new merch coming out sometime soon. I'll announce that when it's officially available. It might take a while because from the time it goes from artist to merchandise to actually on the website, it can take like a month or two. Like it's not immediate thing. But we'll get there, and I'll tell you guys when it is. Also, we do have a Patreon as well. If you feel so inclined to support us there, feel free to do it there. And you can also subscribe to us on YouTube, and as well as actually do paid memberships on YouTube. There are benefits for that as well. So if you don't want to do Patreon, you can always do like a membership through YouTube, and I have levels there, and that's all laid out. So yeah, but that's more for both Will Reads and Cosmere, since we use the Will Reads. So if you're into both fantasy works, I'd recommend there. If you're into just one, Patreon's where it's at. So anyways, yeah, thank you, Zul. Congratulations on your first good night, y'all. No, this one. Congratulations on finishing your first book. Thank you all guys for tuning in, and see y'all next time.
Scott, thank.